The KL War Crimes Commission was intended to serve as a pioneer on an alternative pathway to show not only that the alternative was possible, but also that it was imperative for humanity to uphold independence and seek justice in the face of power. The Commission did not have a legal mandate to arrest suspected war criminals or impose penalties, but this was not our purpose. We intended to establish an unbiased public platform that could achieve the moral victory of showing that no matter who you were or how powerful you were still subject to the laws of humanity, and there would be people in the world who would call you to account. In our tribunal of November 2011, we found former US President George W. Bush and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair guilty of crimes against peace in the unlawful invasion and occupation of Iraq. At the time, this verdict was not taken seriously enough, but in 2016, the UK revealed in its own inquiry under Sir John Chilcot that Blair did not in fact have a satisfactory legal basis for war in Iraq. And Blair was roundly criticised in the British press as well as in the House of Commons. Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader at the time, said that the Iraq war was an act of military aggression launched on a false pretext and had long been regarded as illegal by overwhelming weight of international opinion. At the time, however, the KL War Crimes Commission received no support or acknowledgement from any government. This is understandable. Governments do not enjoy being judged by neutral bodies because they have no influence or control over those bodies. For example, we can blame Myanmar for its treatment of the Rohingya, and we can also blame the US government for the number of coups and attempted coups sponsored by the Central Intelligence Agency, as well as its role in so many of the world's conflicts in the 20th and 21st centuries, or even the many deaths of African Americans at the hands of the domestic police. No comeback SPM. I really wish to see the KL War Crimes Commission develop its role as an independent voice for justice, just as I hope to continue pushing for the criminalization of war. The campaign was gaining momentum, but it would be a long-drawn struggle. There were so many economic interests involved, from the arms lobby to oil and gas and more, and I was ready to lead this new initiative for peace at a global level. So when I stepped down as Prime Minister of Malaysia in 2003, I had no intention of making a political comeback. By that stage, I had served my country for 29 years, including 22 as Prime Minister. I was 78 years old and it was time for younger people to take over. Besides my work with PGPO and the War Crimes Commission, I continued to support the government, but I did my best to stay out of the limelight. I had an office at the Perdana Leadership Foundation (PLF) in Putrajaya, where I spent time crafting speeches for local and international audiences about the need for global peace. The PLF was established after I retired as a place for preserving and developing archives, documents and histories about past Malaysian Prime Ministers and making all this information publicly accessible. The PLF maintains a reference library, for example, which collects and indexes information on the work of all Malaysian Prime Ministers. Following the well-established practice of existing retired Prime Ministers, the government rented space in the PLF building for me and few of my staff. To be honest, I expected to be consulted by the new Prime Ministers should there be any problems. I had been at the helm for 22 years and it would have been silly not to make use of that. However, I do not accept the proposal that I should become a senior minister, as the late Lee Kuan Yew had in Singapore. I wanted my successor, Tun Ahmad Badawi, to be free to do things his own way, as long as it was clear that it was good for the country. It thus came as an unpleasant shock when hardly a week after my resignation, Tun Abdullah cancelled a major national railway project. We had agreed on the double tracking and electrification of the railway line from Johor Bahru to Padang Besar in Perlis, effectively modernising the central peninsular Malaysia railway system. Parts of it had already been built and the cost for completion was 14 billion, spread over 6 years, i.e. about 2 billion a year. It was affordable. We had discussed this project in the government when I was still Prime Minister, and we had agreed to do it. I had asked Abdullah to implement the project, and he had promised to do so. I was in Japan, and when I was told about the cancellation, and I was very upset. It was a necessary project, and the cost was reasonable. This was proven later when the segments between Ipoh, Penang, Padang Besar, just over a third of the original land, became necessary, and the cost for just this segment alone was now 12 billion ringgit. Page 1 to page 4, capturing